Hey guys, me again, Orc What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. Let's see. Deku just got into UA. He pretty much beat Bakugo down. Everyone's questioning. He said goodbye to Momo, essentially. All Might's curious to what he saw as Deku regenerated completely weirdly, out of like almost freakily. I think is like almost to a point of being freakly, I believe is the word. I'm not entirely sure though. Don't quote me on this. Deku essentially beat Bakugo down, won the thing. Now we're moving on. I believe it's like a few days, maybe even a week passes. Deku and his dad are doing well. They got a nice place that's closer to UA, just in case anything ever happens. His dad also works very close to UA as well, being like, I forget the guy's name, but the guy who works with Deku, with All Might, that guy, I think he's the police commissioner. I think he is, at least. He essentially works as like that guy's not right-hand man, but one of his direct subordinates. He like tells Sazanshi where he goes and what he needs to do and what he doesn't. Anyways, what happens now is Deku's going to school. He's closer, so he doesn't have to go that early, so he's just waiting around. He's like, it's about time I start moving. As Deku gets there pretty early, to a point Aizawa's sleeping. Deku arrives there early, typically, not wanting to waste time. He's like, He just waits there for like a few hours, so he just goes over some notes he takes, because he does take schooling seriously, and he doesn't want to look like he's slacking off. So he's reading up on some of the notes he's taken, like, it's like, let's see, theories, whatever. He's like, theories, quantum physics, I don't know what you'd study at, I think it's college level. I'm not entirely sure. But they're just like looking over math equations, some English, or Japanese, whichever you prefer, going over a bit of his history, and a bit of science. And he's also reviewing the quirk, I believe it's quirk law studies, or something along those lines. Deku's looking at all that, he's like, He's like, it's a good thing I review these. Some of these are quite annoying and quite confusing to remember. Even if I can draw on the memories of multiple people at once. Still annoying. As the first people start arriving. First, it's Momo. He's like, hey Momo, how you doing? She's like, you tired? She's like, no, I'm just bored. Bored out of my mind, like seriously, it's crazy how boring it is. Aizawa was asleep over there, so I don't know, just sit down and do what you want. As he's like, I've been reviewing this for about 5 minutes and I'm already bored. Closes his book and pulls out his phone. He's like, starts looking at videos. He's like, yeah. And he actually starts looking into some stuff because he's unsure. He's unsure if Blackwatch is taking any form of heat, you would say, from the information that he gave out. As he's looking at it, he's like, oh, they're getting some massive heat. But it seems like their employers are still employing them. I guess that makes sense. It doesn't matter what they do, just as long as they're effective. That's unless you have morals. But even then, Blackwatch could screw anyone over that tried to screw them over. So I can see why. No reason why people wouldn't want to screw them over. As in, the rest of the class slowly arrives after a period of time. Few of them want to ask Deku about what they saw, but they also see that he's sort of busy. He's essentially top dog right now, is a way to say it. Todoroki comes over at one point, and since he's very blunt, ask him directly to his face. The only thing he didn't do was about All Might is because, well, I think he didn't want to just like blurt that out of nowhere in front of everybody about Deku being All Might's secret love child. Though, as Todoroki does say, he does show extraordinary amounts of strength, speed, and durability. Even his regeneration is quite fast, so... sorry. He's trying to pull it up from where he saw it, because he also reviewed some of those videos back in Japan that were happening in New York, thinking that if that ever happens here, it'd probably be best to be prepared. He always figured he could just freeze everything, and that everything would have been over a lot more quickly if Blackwatch just let them in there. Then again, with some of the superheroes, if they did get infected, like ones like All Might or even his dad, it'd be a catastrophe. From what it heard, that area is kinda... Well, I think there is an airborne strain of the virus. So, he does take that into account. Blackwatch has they're specialists in this sort of area of expertise, so it kind of makes sense. But he's pulling up, he's like, I've seen that outfit somewhere before. Like, Deku's, like I said, is pretty much wearing the exact same thing he did as Wyvern. Since all that information was kept hush-hush. As Deku's like, He's like, alright, I see. So, as he's looking, he eventually finds something similar, but Deku's figure is like blurred, like out of, like to almost, pretty much he can't see. It's just like a giant black block that's over him. Like is all that was released to the public. Because this particular one showed Deku going, pretty much ripping infected to limbs and cutting them to pieces. As all they see are giant, like a whip, not a whip, but claws and tendrils going out. Because if I remember correctly, what I did is that I gave Deku the whip ability after he killed Mercer, because he had everything else. He had the hammer fist, yeah, I gave him the whip fist after, so that way he could, because Deku hadn't fought anyone before that had the whip, so, yeah. With that being said, Todoroki asked him what's his quirk. Deku says, I don't have to tell you. He's like, why? Something you're hiding? He's like, no, I just don't have to tell you. Oh, I know. As he's like, Aizawa is waking up. Sorry for that. I don't know why I'm yawning. I'm not even tired. Like, what the heck? Deku essentially, they all sit down and listen. Then they get the whole thing that they're going to the USJ. Deku's like, this will be interesting. As Deku and all of them arrive, Suyu later asks him, so what's your quack, Deku? I can't do a Suyu voice. He's like, I don't have to tell you guys. I don't care. They're like, are you sure you're not tired? Like, no, I'm good. Just bored. Does anyone know any funny stories? It's like, yeah, I knew this one time. As it cuts out, as they're like, we're here. He's like, oh, thank God. Deku gets up and immediately walks out of the bus. And the whole thing with, I'm sorry, the events are kind of mixed up. I kind of forget about that whole lunch event and the whole picking your class representative. As Deku was sitting down by himself, just eating his food. He's like, oh, good. as he starts talking with Momo, Uraraka, and Ida, who have sort of surrounded him as his main friend group. So, Uraraka is what Deku says, "How do you think you're doing on the schooling?" She's like, "I'm doing fine, but it's nothing special." He's like, And then he speaks to Ida. Ida. Actually, are you the same Tenya Ida that's related to the Ingenium family? As he's like, I heard your name sound familiar, so I started snooping around. I found it. He's like, yeah, I didn't want people to treat me differently. He's like, you're worried about treating you differently. It doesn't matter if people treat you differently. Just as long as they treat you with respect. So that really should matter, isn't it? As then Momo asks Deku, hey, why don't you tell them some stories about New York? Like, you didn't mind telling me. Would you mind telling something to them? It's like, sure. Well, this one time, as in the whole thing happens, it's like, damn it, everyone. As they're all boxed in, Deku sees outside. He's like, hey, Ida, guess what? As he grabs Ida, he's like close enough to him. He pretty much pushes his way through, grabs Ida, and is like, jump up there and hold on tight. As Deku throws him up, Ida's like lands there on the doorway. I'll say it's thick enough to support him. He's like, everyone stop. As then they get the explanation. They want to make Deku right before. They wanted to make Deku right before. He downright refused it, but it was forced onto him. Then he's like, I nominate Ida. He did the crisis pretty well, and it's just an annoyance to me, so have fun. As he pats him on the back. Deku being as we cut back to Deku being the first one off bus, he's like, I don't care if Ida's class rep, I just want to get out of the bus. Oh, I've spent enough time in vehicles and such, and armored vehicles, because I'll say Deku did drive around in those when he got stuck in the red zone, and sometimes he just drove them for fun. Yeah, he kind of was. He did take a few vehicles, like APCs, or maybe even a tank or two at one point. You know, nothing major. As Deku then makes his way, as they all make their way there, they're all waiting around. 13 and Aizawa explain the situation to them. As Deku's like, yeah. The whole, you think your quirk can easily kill someone. It's like, what? Am I yawning? I don't know why I'm yawning. Deku's like, yeah, we all know you could easily kill someone. Blah, blah, blah. As he's like, hey, Aizawa, are we supposed to have people come in today? That are possibly villains? You said this was the unforeseen simulation joint, right? Well, can you tell me something about those people down there? It's like, yeah, that's a real villain attack. Deku's like, huh. All you get out of here. Aizawa, keep the kids safe. I can deal with these guys if you want. It's like, fine. But you're not allowed to kill any of them. He's like, I would never dream of it, Aizawa. As Deku's like, oh. He's loosening up. He's like, let's do this. He then pounces off, like pretty much flies over and smashes into the ground. It's like, remember Deku, no killing. Aizawa and 13 are then left to deal with Kurogiri. The children are like, Aizawa, shouldn't you be down there with Deku? He's like, he's fine. Out of everyone here, even including myself, he's probably the one who could deal with those people easily. As Deku's like, come on, you're boring me. He grabs a guy by the leg and starts twirling him around and throws him into a few others. He's like, come on, I'm waiting for ya. As he punches another, sending him flying through the crowd. Then like, come on, I'm bored. You guys are annoying, and I was just trying to have a nice day at school. And then he pushes the guy forward, and then kicks him, sending him flying past Shigaraki. Eventually, when Shigaraki goes like, oh, hey you, make yourself useful. You were there in New York, weren't you? Like, you know I was. As it's a few nameless people, I was like, go help Kurogiri. That guy can be taken care of by Nomu here. As Deku's like, hold on a second. As he sniffs around, he's like, no. Impossible. And then he turns around to see those people running towards him, drawing out their weird weapons. He's like, oh crap, this is not a good thing. They're covering their faces and are staying hidden. They're an unknown variable. As before Deku can take off after him, Nomu comes rushing in and punches Deku, sending him flying. He's like, shit. As he goes crashing, he's like, oh, took me by surprise there. You're a tough one, I'll give you that. See if you can handle this. As he brings out his hammer fist, smashing him to the ground, he's like, oh. Now let's see what you got, big guy. Rushing forward, he and the Nomus and his fist collide, causing a giant shockwave, essentially. Similar to that of All Might and them rushing in. But instead of just being one fist, it took like both fists and Deku exerting a lot of his strength. If not a lot, if not all. To a point that the Nomu's shock absorption absorbed quite a bit of it, but some of it was still able to make it through. It's weird how to explain this. I'll just say his force made the Nomu stay still, as it like stood there, as Deku kept on throwing his punches again and again, and even at one point uppercutted it and threw it. He's like, alright, gotta help them. As Kurogiri then teleports him, and then as he's like falling through the teleporter, well, the portal, there we go. Everyone pretty much sees him as he falls like with one leg hanging down, as then the leg is quickly but swiftly cut off, as then he's teleported again and thrown right in front of everyone, since Kurogiri wasn't able to teleport everyone away. Aizawa, though, and all of them were fighting off those evolved. With Deku being flung over there, one of them sees their chance as Deku's wide open. He's like, shit, it's an evolved Deku, watch out! Deku's like, they could sneak up on me. As it takes its blade, swings it down on Deku's head. Deku pretty much taking his hand and grabbing the blade. He's like, you think just because I've lost a leg that won't grow back? As this guy looks him in the face, and Deku's like, oh, would you look at that? As everyone's looking at him, his leg just starts growing back with the weird tendril sprouting out. He's like, those were some good... It looks like your friend over there could do something. Let me do something for you. Takes out his claws, cuts off the guy's arm. He's like, as the guy freaks out and lunges backwards, he's like, shoot. Shit. You got my arm, let's pull back for a minute. He's like, oh, no. I got questions, and y'all got answers. So my question is, are you gonna tell me yourself, or I'm gonna have to go rooting around your memories? As he takes out his signature combo, his sword, his shield, and his bladed gauntlet, he's like, alright, it's gonna be the hard way. I don't prefer this way, but it's much easier. I know if you're lying to me or not. Deku's like, all you stay back. They could be seriously endangered, so. As it's like, Aizawa, you can get everyone out of here. That door should be good. As he pretty much smashes to the ground, brings out a pile of rubble, and he's like, whoa! As he chucks it all the way, and it smashes through that door. He's like, not smashes through, but it dents it pretty well. He's like, eat up all you pry open that door. Thankfully, he wasn't able to teleport you. Otherwise, this can get messy. As before that, several of the students are teleported away by Kurogiri. That being said, Kurogiri teleports them away and they all crash on the ground in separate areas. He's then Shigaraki authorizes the point that the children, grab them as hostages and hold them so that way that he can't tell that they're not you. That he can't do a thing because he seems like the type that would not harm a civilian or even put civilians in a risk. As then he tells the Nomu to get back in there. The Nomu then rushing in, trying to smash Deku. It's like, as he brings up his shield, the Nomu's fist collides with it, as then it cracks. He's like, shit. As he's sliding all the way back, he's like, whoa. I'll say this, you're probably as tough as Mercer. Not even as tough as Mercer, but probably as tough as me before I consumed Mercer. So, let's see how you do now. Deku rushing in and then bringing back his bladed gauntlet, slicing off the Nomu's arm, then trying to consuming it. He's like, whoa, that's a bit of a juice up. As the combination of quirks and people inside this, it's essentially like a combo that you get at a restaurant. He's like, oh, this feels wrong and weird. You ain't normal. You ain't normal by far. As then he takes his bladed gauntlet, slices off a leg, but as that leg was being sliced off, the arm grew back and then the Nomu clocks them right on the side of the face, sending him flying, well, tumbling more or less. As Deku tries to recover, he's like, shoot. As he activates, if I remember correctly, I say Heller and Deku have armored abilities, if I remember. Deku doesn't armor up his entire body, essentially. He just armors up his feet, helping him stop, like, going backwards as he fixes it. With him stopped, she's like, alright, now I'm pissed. He rushes forward, taking out his claws. He's like, let's see if he can keep up with this. He then comes swinging in with his bladed claws as he cuts into the Nomu pretty decently, but just regenerates very quickly. He's like, regeneration's on par with my own. Let's see if he can keep it up. He then starts punching into the Nomu using a random combination of weapons, seeing if the Nomu has any form of intelligence, which he quickly deciphers it doesn't. All it knows is to fight like a brawler. He just throws punches at random, not calculated or anything. As then he's like, let's see, I got you right here. See, and slices at the Nomu's stomach, but as he slices through it, the Nomu's innards start spilling out. The Nomu just quickly regenerates, having the innards hang out a little bit. He's like, oh, that's weird. As then Deku comes in, punching the Nomu in the face. He's like, that ain't doing so much. As Deku's then swatted away, sending him flying. The Nomu hit him with everything he had, sending him flying and crashing through a building. He's like, ow. Oh, that did not feel good. Oh, I wonder how the others that got teleported away are doing. As he's like, oh, there's one of them. It looks like it's Bakugo, Uraraka, Jiro, Kaminari, and Mineta. Those guys have clumped up together. And it looks like those evolved are giving them some trouble. I could go help them. Deku's like, ow. As he went to stand up, his leg pretty much fell. He's like, oh, I need to fix that real quick. My regeneration won't just put that back together, I think. As it just doesn't concentrate, he just it just goes back in by itself. He would just didn't notice it and wasn't thinking about it. Sorry. He then rushes off. He's like starts running down the building. As you're like, look at that! It's Deku. As Deku crashes into the ground after finishing running into the building, he's like, you two, why don't you pick on somebody your own weight class or your own class? Well, it's not like the two of you together actually pose any threat to me. He then rushes in, deciding that these guys need to go down immediately. As he decides upon that, he comes swinging and then takes his claws out, cutting the second dude in half. He's like, ooh. So he absorbs him. He's like, I'll tell you guys about this later. Or maybe Aizawa will. I don't know. He then stomps on the guys using his whip as the guy's trying to run away. Deku launches it, like a few yards away, catching the guy in the foot on the leg and yanking him all the way back. As Deku pulls him in and grabs him by the neck, he's like, so, you thought you could come in here and kill me, hmm? You thought you could come in here and disrespect me to my face? Hmm? He then picks the guy up and then just takes his arm and rams it straight through his back, ripping out the spine, you could say. He's like, huh, looks like you did have a spine there after all. As he just absorbs him, he's like, well, it's a neat bit of information. They were sent here on the account of that if they killed Deku, that Black Watch would let him go. He's like, oh, they're a bunch of idiots. Or that Black Watch would reinstate one of these people in service. Oh, crap. As he realizes the one that isn't here is probably the one that's probably going after the other person if they're out there. Deku's like, I think it was Momo. As he uses his sensory ability to try and find her, but then the Nomu comes smashing in towards Deku. Deku's like, look at the rest of them. Get out of here! I'll deal with him! As then he takes the Nomu by the leg, grabs his leg and swings him around, throwing him into a building. He's like, is that all? He then takes his armor ability and tries to boost it to the highest possible. Like, let's see what you got. Deku jumping upward and then punching the Nomu in the face, taking it all the way down through the building, floor by floor. He's like, come on, that all? Punch, 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 punch. As then he grabs the Nomu by the head and is like, see if you can regenerate from this. Bringing out his claws and slicing at the Nomu's head, getting its skull and consuming it. He's like, whoa, that feels freaky. As Deku's like, oh, what in the world? Oh, this thing doesn't feel right. Oh. Deku grabbing his stomach, like his chest, he's like, oh, that feels not right. Keep it under control. Seems when I take up a lot of biomass like that, oh, it looks like it has some adverse effects. Oh. He then pretty much refits himself and he's like, alright. He then comes crashing through and Momo is held at knife point? I'm not entirely sure. Deku's like, hey buddy, if you let her go, I'll make it quick. Or I'll let you go yourself. He's like, sorry man, ain't gonna happen. Then bringing it closer to Momo, who's like closer to her as he's like holding a knife pretty much around her like head, neck, or chest area, somewhere along there. As then he's like coming closer and she gets it now. As he talks to the guy behind him, it's like, that guy just took out your special monster, hey? So why don't you guys get us the hell out of here? And as Deku's like, the girl's coming with me first. And as Deku's like, as he's like, alright, no pressure. As the portal summoned and Deku, as the guy is like, alright, takes the blade and slices Momo like straight through. As he brings out the blade and gets her all the way through. Not consuming her, just pretty much twisting it and just throwing her off as they all teleport. He's like, shit. As Deku's like, oh, fuck. As the ambulance and all of them have arrived, he's like, shit. Aizawa, get us the medics down here now. Deku's like, oh, what to do? As he, like, I guess he could, takes off his coat and wraps it around her. He's like, alright, stop the bleeding. As he pretty much rushes and gets her on the ambulance, he's like, come on, let's go. As he smacks the thing on the thing, it's like, well, smacks the inside of the ambulance. He's like, let's get going. We got a girl bleeding here. She's bleeding to death. As he's like, oh, alright, we're on it. As they, like, close the doors and they're speeding off to the recovery room. Like, shit. Deku and them arrive. He's like, oh, like, good. Get everyone out of here. We're starting an operation. As Deku speaks to the recovery girl. She got stabbed all the way through. She's bleeding extensively. Try to do your best, alright? She's like, fine, but I don't have the equipment to save her life here. Like, I could do a lot, like stop the bleeding, suture her up and such, but it's gonna be difficult. I need a nurse, technically. Deku's like, alright, you got one right here. I know a bit about medical knowledge, remember? He's like, oh yeah, you consumed over 100 people. Like, oh well. As Deku then decides that, well, he starts shifting through all the memories and finds a guy who went to med school, and he has enough about that stuff. He then helps Recovery Girl, but he's like, we're starting to lose her. I don't think she's gonna make it. He's like, shit. Whoa. There is something we could do, but I don't think you guys would like it very much. We do this, it would change her completely, and it's possible she may not even be able to survive through it. She may turn up worse. It's like, what is it? I could infect her with my strain of the virus. As I'll say, after this has taken over like 30 minutes, since they like keep constantly trying to give her more blood and trying to suture her up, but with how the blade was, how the guy's hand blade was, it's quite difficult because they're trying to save organs and such that have been pretty much sliced to ribbons and are either smushed or sliced. Deku saying this brings Nezu's eyebrow and them. It's like, you think you could do that, Deku? It's like, I don't know the possibility. I never learned that trick from Mercer. I just know how to infect people. I've done it once before, but that was to create distraction. The guy went infected and just started going crazy. So, I could save her right here and now, possibly. She'd be physically superior, healing would be better. She could even fly, somewhat fly. I could do it right now, just give me the word, Nezu. As he's like, the lives of students are more important than any sort of law or whatever, or any risk. He's like, do it. Deku's like, alright. Takes his hand, turning it into the evolved form, like similar to a tendril, touching Momo. He's like, come on. As the virus starts covering her pretty much, as he's like, come on, Momo, we got ya. As it's doing its thing, she is like tossing and turning. He's like, don't try to hold her down. Hey, anyone out there? As it's a few teachers like Vlad King, and I'll say Power Loader. He's like, you two, help me hold her down. She's gonna start shaking like crazy in a couple of seconds. And, well, instead of Vlad or Power Loader, I'll say it's Midnight and Present Mike, saying that they were there. Villains and such were pretty much wiped out by Deku. So I'll say those guys were there. Kamui, Woods, and all them, though, are still at the thing. He's like, come on, we got ya. As she starts to shake crazily, he's like, keep the heart monitor. As they look at it, it's like crazy, like up and down, constantly. It's like, at this point, her heart may explode. He's like, no, she won't, trust me. Deku starts trying to put a bit of his healing into her, but it is a very difficult process. Deku's like, come on, hold out just a little bit more, Momo. You're tougher than this. Come on. As then, eventually, the heart rate starts slowing down. It's like, Instead of going beep, 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 it goes beep, 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 beep. A very steady heart rate, and her injuries start healing all the way up. He's like, alright, good. And as he brings out his blade, he's like, alright, this is just in case. I'll stay here for like 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, if she doesn't change, she's good. It's from what I read from the files. As 30 minutes pass, oh, thank God. Deku leans back in the chair. He's like, thank God. Nezu and Alden are wiping us. They're wiping their brows. They're like, oh. As Nezu says, I would like to speak with you for a moment, Deku. As he's like, oh, great. Walking out with Nezu, he then explains the whole scenario. He didn't know if it was like a 50-50 chance of her surviving. So, and if anything, she has any questions, he says that it's probably time you explain to Class 1A who I am. After seeing me go using these, it's best they know who they're with. And what I just did to save Momo's life. That way nobody questions it. I also probably have to spend a lot of time training her in how to control her physical strength now. Considering it'll probably be a lot better than anyone else's in Class 1A. The only one that would probably be able to go close to it is probably Sato, I think, Sugarman Sato. Captain Diabetes, or whoever. He is probably the only one that he's the only one here who could probably rival her in strength. Right, when he's sugared up at least. It's like, alright, do what you have to do. Deku's like, thanks. I'll keep an eye on her for now. Thanks again, Nezu. He's like, no problem. As the Nezu walks away, Deku takes a seat in the infirmary just waiting, seeing if Momo will wake up. And that's where I'm going to be ending it off on. I hope y'all have enjoyed this, hope y'all continue to enjoy this, and I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.